For nearly 2 decades, the life of Jesus Christ remains shrouded in mystery, challenging historians, theologians, and believers alike. What happened between his 12 and 30 years? How did the young boy who debated with the doctors in the temple become the man whose words would shake the world? Ancient documents, hidden accounts, and clues in the Gospels suggest that his journey went far beyond what we've been taught. What was the life of Jesus like between the ages of 12 and 30? The silence in the temple was broken by the soft sound of sandals on cold marble. Old men with long beards and heavy robes leaned forward, furrowing their brows, struggling to understand what was unfolding before them. A boy, slight in stature, with bright eyes and a firm voice, asked questions and answered with a clarity that defied his age. Astonishment grew with each phrase. Who was this 12-year-old boy speaking of the scriptures with such depth? Then, without warning, he vanished from the records. That boy, who had amazed the teachers of the law in Jerusalem, disappears from the scriptures for nearly 2 decades. No gospel mentions where he went or what he did during this time. This silence gave rise to mysteries and speculations that spanned centuries. How did a young carpenter from Nazareth, raised in a humble village, reappear years later preaching with unquestionable authority, challenging the greatest religious leaders of the time? Some clues suggest that his quest for knowledge might have led him beyond the borders of Israel. There are indications that he studied among the Essenes, a reclusive Jewish community that practiced purification rituals and awaited the coming of the Messiah. Other apocryphal accounts point to the possibility that Jesus may have traveled further, to Egypt, where he would have learned from priests and sages who guarded ancient secrets. Some manuscripts that were discovered mention a foreign teacher who passed through regions like India and Tibet, spreading teachings on love and compassion, concepts that would later resonate deeply in his words. Could Jesus have been this enigmatic young man, traveling the lands of Egypt, leaving his mark among the wise? If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's return to the video. The hot desert wind swept through the isolated caves, where a group of men dedicated their lives to purity, the study of prophecies, and the awaiting of a Messiah. They were the Essenes, a secret community, removed from the world's corruption, committed to truth and spiritual discipline. There were no riches or hierarchies among them, only men living to comprehend the mysteries of God. Could it be that Jesus walked among them, shaping his vision and preparing for the mission that would change history? The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the 20th century, reveal texts bearing striking similarities to many of the teachings Jesus would later preach. The Essenes practiced baptism as a ritual of purification, believed in the coming of a new kingdom, and condemned the hypocrisy of religious leaders, messages that would echo in Christ's own speeches. If Jesus was among them, he would have found an ideal environment to deepen his understanding of God and his role in humanity's destiny. Life in the desert was harsh. The isolation demanded extreme discipline, long fasts, and an intense study of the scriptures. For the Essenes, it was here, away from a corrupt society, that true connection with the Creator could be found. Many believe that Jesus spent years in seclusion, preparing himself, learning about spiritual purity and the meaning of ancient prophecies. The similarities between the Essenes' teachings and the words of Jesus are striking. The criticism of religious hypocrisy, the idea of a kingdom not of this world, and the emphasis on humility and justice all resound both in the texts of the Essene community and in the Gospels. Some theories suggest that Jesus may have learned from Egyptian priests, men who mastered spiritual practices and advanced knowledge about the soul. These teachers preserved secrets about the nature of humanity and the relationship between body and spirit, concepts that would later be reflected in Jesus' teachings. Could it be that he studied these mysteries, absorbing lessons that would shape his mission? Apocryphal accounts mention a young foreigner who impressed the sages of Egypt. According to these texts, this youth mastered sacred writings and spoke with uncommon authority. His knowledge seemed to transcend his age, and many believed he had a direct connection to the divine. The parallels with Jesus' own journey are fascinating, raising the question, could he have been this enigmatic young man who traveled through Egypt, leaving his mark on the masters there? Egypt was not just a land of pharaohs and monumental temples, but also a place where secrets of healing, alchemy, and spirituality were passed down through generations. The belief in the power of the word, the use of touch to restore both body and soul, and the deep symbolism of rebirth are among the elements that may have influenced Jesus' views on miracles and the transformation of humanity. If Jesus truly walked this land of mysteries, what did he learn before returning to Israel? Could he have found there the keys to understanding his own mission? Egypt may have been more than just a childhood refuge. It could have been a school, a place where the boy from Nazareth began to transform into the Messiah who would shake the world. The path to knowledge did not end in the lands of Egypt or the deserts of Israel. For those seeking to understand the divine in its purest form, the East was an inevitable destination. Ancient kingdoms such as India and Tibet were home to monks and sages who had been teaching about enlightenment, detachment, and compassion for centuries. Could it be that Jesus journeyed to these lands in search of answers that transcended Jewish traditions? Ancient accounts suggest that he may have traveled to India and Tibet, learning from spiritual masters who dedicated their lives to meditation and understanding existence. These masters preached about universal love, the connection between all things, and the liberation from suffering through deep understanding of life. If Jesus was among them, he may have found a new way to express his mission, refining the message that he would later carry to Israel. In Tibetan monasteries, records speak of a young foreign prophet who taught about love and compassion. His knowledge impressed the monks, and his words echoed principles that would become central in the Gospels. He spoke of a kingdom greater than any earthly empire, a kingdom where peace and justice would prevail. The similarities to Jesus' message cannot be ignored. The teachings of Buddhism emphasized humility and non-violence, values that Jesus would carry in his own words. The idea of loving one's enemies, seeking peace over war, and seeing others without judgment are concepts found both in Buddhism and in the messages that Jesus would share years later. The Sermon on the Mount echoes Eastern wisdom. When Jesus speaks of the meek inheriting the earth, of peacemakers being called children of God, and of the need to detach from wealth, he conveys ideas that deeply resonate with Eastern philosophy. Could his journey have shaped his vision of the kingdom of God? If this journey truly took place, it might have been the final step in Jesus' preparation before returning to Israel. He didn't return simply as a Jewish prophet. He came back as a master, carrying teachings that transcended cultures and religions. The boy who had once disappeared from biblical records now returned to Nazareth as a transformed man. His gaze was different. His posture radiated a serenity that baffled those who knew him. He was no longer just the carpenter's son. Something within him had changed, something that no one could explain. His teachings soon began to astonish. He spoke with an authority that no rabbi possessed, delivering truths that went beyond Jewish tradition. He spoke of love above the law, compassion above sacrifice, and inner transformation as the true path to God. This unsettled many. The Pharisees and teachers of the law were not prepared for someone who questioned their certainties. Those who had grown up with him now saw him with suspicion, and rejection would soon follow. But before embarking on his mission, he needed preparation. The desert called to him. For 40 days and 40 nights he isolated himself, fasting, confronting his own limits, and being tested in every way. It was there that the temptations came, offering him power, glory, and dominion over the world. But he resisted. His purpose was greater than any empty promise. When he returned, John the Baptist was already preaching by the Jordan River, announcing the arrival of the kingdom. Upon seeing him, John recognized his greatness. He hesitated to baptize him, but Jesus insisted. It was the moment. As Jesus emerged from the waters, the heavens opened, and then the voice. Everyone heard it. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." The waiting was over. His mission had begun. Now it was time to walk among men, to bring light where there was darkness, and to choose those who would stand by him until the end. But he did not seek the wise or the powerful. Instead, he went to meet the simple, the fishermen, the tax collectors, those whom no one else would choose. Ordinary men, yet they would witness unimaginable miracles and hear truths that would transform humanity. From the very beginning, his message troubled the religious leaders. While the Pharisees and Sadducees clung to laws and traditions that bolstered their power, Jesus spoke of love, mercy, and forgiveness. He sat with sinners, touched the unclean, and challenged rules that confined rather than liberated. His mere presence was an affront to the system, and this made him a target. The signs he performed were undeniable. The sick were healed, the blind saw, the paralyzed walked, and even the dead were brought back to life. But these miracles went beyond the physical. He restored souls, broke invisible chains, and freed those bound by fear and despair. Each act was proof that something new was happening, something the powerful could not control. The kingdom he proclaimed was not an earthly empire, but a spiritual reality. A kingdom where the last would be first, where power lay in serving, where faith could move mountains. But few understood. Many expected a leader who would overthrow Rome, but he spoke of inner transformation. As his influence grew, so did the threat he posed. The powerful saw the people turning toward him, watching as his words dismantled long-held beliefs. This could not be allowed. Conspiracies began. He had to be silenced. Who was this man who spoke with such authority? How did someone of such humble origin possess knowledge that even the most learned could not refute? Many accepted his words as coming from God, but others saw him as a dangerous enigma. There was a gap in his story, nearly 2 decades of silence in the Gospels. Why was no one recording where he had been or what he had done? Could this erasure have been intentional? A Messiah whose wisdom was shaped by different cultures could be seen as a threat to religious control. The message he brought to the world was unlike anything that had been taught before. He spoke of a God who did not require empty sacrifices, but a transformed heart. He rejected the rigidity of laws when they became more important than compassion. His vision transcended boundaries, and his wisdom seemed to come from something far greater than the isolated Jewish tradition. But what if this knowledge had been acquired through a journey that was hidden from history? His teachings on unconditional love, material detachment, unrestricted forgiveness, and the pursuit of inner truth reflect concepts found in other spiritual traditions. Had he learned about humility and nonviolence in India, about healing and the power of words in Egypt, about purity and spiritual discipline among the Essenes? If his journey took him to these places, then his mission was shaped by a much broader understanding of the divine. The faith that would grow around his name was based not only on Jewish scriptures, but on universal wisdom. The impact of this was immense. His message spread quickly because it was not limited to one people, and from there we come to know the story of Jesus Christ. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue exploring hidden mysteries and stories from the Bible, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us bring more videos like this to a wider audience. Activate the notifications to stay updated on our next content and share this video with friends who might enjoy it. See you in the next one.